and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a classic 80s movie about two California doofuses struggling with high school history class because all they want to do is play in their band, the Wild Stallions, spelled weird, instead of studying. It's a popular movie. I'm sure most have seen it, but if you haven't, in short, a weird old guy named Rufus shows up from the future to help Bill and Ted pass history class so that their band can stay together because they're apparently very beloved by future generations. So to do that, they're given access to a magic phone booth that lets them time travel to the past to brush up on those historical figures. It's a watertight premise, I assure you. The movie is very of its time, and I still crack up at Napoleon discovering how amazing ice cream is. It's a fun flick and all, but is it ripe for an NES tie-in? Well, LJN sure thought so. Let's see what's up. The game is advertised as a continuation of the first movie, a proper sequel almost. In fact, the title is Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure, implying a different adventure from the movie adventure. They already passed their history test. What more could Rufus want from these two idiots? And it turns out some time-space rebels went back into the past, kidnapped various historical figures, and then left them in the wrong time periods. It's your job in the game to travel by way of phone booth to each of the different time periods, lure out the historical figure with clues and bait, and return them to their correct time periods. What's on the line for Bill and Ted? Well, if they're unable to return history to normal, then their band, the Wild Stallions, miss the big concert that launches their massive careers. Rufus leaves the phone booth behind for you. Now, flipping through the phone book, you'll find one number in the book has a red number beneath it. That's the number you have to call. The game doesn't always give you the same historical figures to track down in the same order each playthrough. It's a little randomized. Once you have the number, you have to complete a phone booth number minigame thing, and it's absolutely pointless and annoying. Just get your little phone booth to the last number. I'm not even real sure of the point, but if you mess up, you lose coins, and Rufus only gave you a certain number of coins, so don't be willy-nilly. Now, once back in time, the game officially begins. You'll be greeted with a top-down isometric view of the medieval world, and later you'll venture to the Wild West, then the US Revolutionary world, the modern world, and the ancient world. The manual graciously has maps of each, and those help a little, but there is no in-game map, which would have been amazing. Because everything looks the same, it becomes very easy to get lost. One thing that must be pointed out is that making your way around the world is clunky and obnoxious. There are paths you can walk on, and if you happen to jump or land off the path, your character butt plants instead of landing on their feet. It makes getting around a complete hassle. Sometimes there are no paths around, and your character walks and jumps around fine, so have fun figuring that out. Most kids who rented this game back in the day, like myself, got here and realized they had no idea what their mission was, or even how to figure it out. Reading manuals was boring, and your rental probably didn't even come with one. If this was you, you were not alone. Over 93% of rental kids suffered the fate of being lost in the Bill and Ted game that they thought would be totally bodacious and excellent. Instead, they got a slow, plodding, cumbersome, cryptic mess. The whole point is to locate historical figures, like Elvis, Thomas Edison, Confucius. But you're not going to find them just by walking around and looking everywhere. You need to talk to the NPCs scattered around for clues to where to find bait, and where to actually find the person. The conversations with NPCs have consequences. You'll need to experiment with how you answer certain NPCs in the village to get clues that are only somewhat helpful and mostly cryptic, like telling you to go look in a teepee when there are dozens of teepees around the Old West. Okay, thanks. You'll also need to understand how the NPCs behave. When outside of buildings, if you see an NPC standing still, then they are fair game for conversation. If they are walking around, don't touch them, or they get annoyed and make you pay a fine. If they are chasing after you, then they're angry, so run like hell, or they'll put you in jail. Now thankfully, you'll have items in your inventory to help you get out of an NPC pickle, so to speak. Tossing a pudding cup will cause the locals to chase after it and leave you alone. A firecracker will make them run away. The boombox makes them all stop where they are and dance, and the textbook will wipe out all the locals on screen. I'm not sure it's great for the sake of future generations to be murdering a bunch of civilians, but going to jail sucks, so I get it. It's not just cryptic information from the locals you need in order to find your misplaced historical figure. You'll also need bait. Each level will have some items hidden within, but only one will be relevant to the historical figure you're looking for. Most make sense, like a megaphone for Paul Revere, the Holy Grail for King Arthur, salad dressing for Julius Caesar. Once you have the correct bait in your inventory, then you need to take clues from NPCs about where they last saw the historical figure in the village and try to track them down. Once you find them, that's it. You move to the next world to find more misplaced historical figures. In total, there are 12 you need to rescue across 6 levels. Later levels have you finding multiples. I see what they were going for here, and I truly believe LJN had a neat idea. At least it's not just a messy, illogical platformer like Back to the Future 2 and 3. Once I figured out what Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure wanted, and how it wanted it, I started to appreciate it more. But most of the game feels like a giant waste of time. The phone booth sequence is annoying, moving around the world is annoying, the worlds are huge, the clues are cryptic, the NPCs are obnoxious. I think an in-game map and a little more hand-holding in the first level to indicate what the player's expected to do would have made it a smoother experience. Unfortunately, all the wandering around you have to do makes for a rather lengthy playthrough. But thankfully you're given passwords after each successful world. And there are no lives. If you're captured and jailed to the point where you're flat broke, then it's game over, dude. All said, Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure portrays the characters and overall essence of the movie well, but the execution is shaky. Now, again, I do want to commend LJN on attempting something more than just a cash-in platformer, but their ambitions unfortunately led to a game that is mostly obtuse, tedious, and monotonous. If we're lucky, maybe Bill and Ted will go back in time and leave us a better NES video game. There are a few other Bill and Ted video games out there, but I've not put any meaningful time into any of them. Here's the one on the Game Boy. It's a platformer, simply titled Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This one, along with the NES version, recently released on a Bill and Ted's Excellent Retro Collection that came to the PlayStation 4, 5, and Switch in 2023. I'm not sure we needed it, but we have it. Another game came out on the Lynx and takes place after the second movie. It's a top-down action puzzle game that's apparently decent. And lastly, a computer game released on DOS, Amiga, and Commodore 64, and follows the beats of the first movie, but was not well received. Well, that's going to do it for Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure on the NES. As always, be careful of killing random civilians when you travel back in time. And thanks for watching, dudes.